What's up guys, so really exciting. As of today, the two new full-frame mirrorless bodies from Canon, the R5 and the R6, are officially announced and available for pre-order. So now there are 4 bodies in the R lineup, and I wanted to make this video really quickly as someone who owns the current 2 full-frame mirrorless bodies, the R and the RP, and give my insights and thoughts on which of the R bodies should you think about buying if you're looking into purchasing one of these. So I'm gonna start actually with the most inexpensive body and move up. I think a lot of you guys might even be surprised at how well some of the more inexpensive bodies might work for you. So let's get into it. So first up is the Canon RP, and right now it retails for $9.99. I just found this though for $8.99, and I think as the R5 and the R6 are coming out, the price will eventually within the next little while probably drop down to the $8.99 price. I can't say for sure obviously, but that's my suspicion. And at this price point, wow, like what a camera. I'm working on a full review video of this camera right now, and when it does come out, when I release that, I'm gonna link it right here so that you can see it. But I am so impressed with this camera. 26.2 megapixels, it has 1080 up to 60 frames, and 4K 24. Of course, you have a huge crop in 4K, and you don't have good autofocus, it's just contrast-based autofocus. But here's the thing, for most people that are starting into the full frame system, this is going to be a great option. If you're coming from a crop censored camera, a Rebel series camera for sure, this is a great option. And I'll say, if you are someone who is not a full-time professional, if you're someone who doesn't have $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 that they're ready to invest into a full frame camera body and lens system right now, don't even think about it. Go for the RP. The quality that you get from this camera for that price point is insane. When I got this as a backup camera for my R, and I honestly wasn't super excited about it. The specs and what I've heard from everybody, you know, it wasn't the most exciting camera on paper, but I have actually really fallen in love with this camera. The image quality that you get out of it, the high ISO performance actually. I was just shooting yesterday at 12,800 ISO because I wanted to crank the shutter speed to freeze some action, and the quality and how well this handles high ISO was actually really stunning. You will see noise at that high ISO level, but the quality of that noise actually looks like some really pleasing film grain. So I would say if you are a photographer who is, again, not a full-time professional and not ready to invest several $1,000s right now into camera body and lenses, this is going to be a great bet for you. If you are just stepping into your first full frame camera as a photographer, this is going to be stunning performance for you, especially at this price point. And then you can leave more of your budget for lenses, which is going to make a bigger difference anyway. And the RF lenses are certainly expensive. And even EF lenses or Sigma EF lenses that you can adapt to this body, you'll have more room in your budget for that. I think anybody who is a photographer mainly that doesn't shoot sports or action or wildlife, anything that's moving quickly, I think this is going to be really great for you. If you are shooting sports, wildlife, some kind of action, I would skip this camera. But if you're shooting mostly photography where you don't need super high continuous frame rates, and if your video needs are something like vlogging, making YouTube videos, social media videos, maybe behind the scenes type of content for your social media, this is a great camera. I think you will be very happy with saving the money, getting the RP body, and investing the rest into lenses. And another thing is this camera does make a great backup body if in the future you do decide to invest into one of the higher end bodies in this R system. Going up in price point, the next camera would be the Canon R. And right now it's going for around $1,800, but there are rumors that the price is going to drop to about $1,500, which is what I got this for when it dropped to that around Christmas last year. So it's probably a good bet that within at least the next couple months or so, the price will drop down to that $1,500 price point. And that's pretty awesome for what you get in this camera. The next highest up camera is going to be the R6, which right now is $2,500. So you're saving $1,000 if it drops to that price point. $1,000 or even the $800 that you would save now is going to be a lot of money that you can invest in some better lenses. And for a lot of people, I think that's going to be the route to go. So who do I think should invest into this level? I think if you are mainly a photographer that doesn't shoot action, because the R is also not an action camera. If you're mainly shooting portraits or products, something that you, again, don't need a super high continuous frame rate in photography, and you also do some video work, this camera has C-Log, 1080 at full frame and 4K 24 with a crop. I think this is still a really good option for someone who is mainly a photographer and does some professional video or wants to have the option to do some professional video as well. You get great performance for this price point. Again, if you are shooting action, if you're shooting sports, anything that's moving fast, I would skip this option. Another thing to think about is for this camera and the RP as well, there is no in-body image stabilization, so if that's something that you really need for your workflow, then you will have to invest into one of the higher levels. But I think for a lot of even professionals, this camera does really well. This only has one card slot, just like the RP, so if you are shooting weddings or something, then I would probably suggest that you do invest a little bit more into the R6 or the R5 so that you can have a second card slot. All right, so now onto the exciting stuff, the new cameras. First, the R6, which is coming out at $2,500 US right now. This camera looks really exciting, and a lot of the hype has been around the R5, which I'll talk about in a second, is very exciting, but the R6 is actually really, really interesting too. So the R6 actually has the same sensor and processor as the 1DX Mark III. For $2,500, that's just crazy, mind-blowing. The video specs on this thing, awesome. So we have 4K up to 60 frames. We have 1080 at 120 frames. We have C-Log in all of those. Dual pixel AF Mark II. I'm not even sure how much better that's going to be, but it's really exciting. In the R6 and the R5 as well, we also get animal detection autofocus, which may come to the R and the RP in a firmware update at some point, but as of right now, it's just in the R6 and the R5. So if animal photography or videography is a main part of your work, then you'll want to think about probably one of these cameras because that's going to make the workflow so much easier. If you are a videographer mainly, and you also need some really high quality photo work, that's when you need to start thinking about the R6, I think. So 4K in C-Log, full frame, also 1080 at 120 frames per second. That's kind of the standard of a lot of mirrorless cameras that are aimed at video shooters right now. So I think the R6 is going to be for somebody that is mainly a pro videographer. And if you're doing weddings or something where you definitely need to have those dual card slots, the R6 is the one that has that, and I think this is for you. I do think that the photography side of this camera is going to be awesome. The low light performance on this camera, I think, is going to be mind-blowing. You only have 20 megapixels, so it's easier to get away with high ISOs when you have a lower megapixel count, and you have the Digic X processor, which is, again, exactly what we have in the 1DX Mark III. The high ISO performance, from what I've seen, this is going to be awesome. If you need a low light beast camera, whether you're filming weddings or shooting photography at weddings where you can't bring flash and that kind of thing, I think this is going to be an awesome route for you. But for someone who is mainly a photographer, you really have to think about what you need. If you need dual card slots, R6, definitely. If you need a little bit more resolution, then the R actually starts to make a little bit more sense and at a lower price point. So 20 megapixels is going to be plenty for most people. So if you are a photographer who needs more than 20 megapixels resolution, then your options are drop down and save some money and get the R, or go up to the next level and get the R5, which has much more resolution. So another thing, starting with the R6, is the in-body image stabilization. And what I've seen from the IBIS in these cameras is crazy. I think certainly for handheld video shooters, run and gun type of video shooters, this is going to be a dream come true. The performance from this in-body stabilization looks just really amazing. And I think for someone who especially travels and does handheld video and doesn't necessarily want to pack a gimbal all the time, this is going to be an awesome option for you. And of course we have the big boy, the R5, and I would say this camera is for the full-time professional who is making income based on the work that they're making with their camera. If you're not a full-time professional, I mean, if you have the money to just throw around, then go for it. It's an awesome camera. But otherwise, if you're trying to invest in yourself and you're not a full-time professional, I think the other cameras make more sense. If you're a full-time professional and can invest in this, the R5 is an awesome camera. 45 megapixels for photo. Now, one thing you have to think about with that is 45 megapixels with a Digic X processor. That's the same processor that's in the R6. So if you're shooting a lot of low light stuff, the R6 is going to perform way better in that. Just because it has a 20 megapixel sensor, you can get away with higher ISO values. Another really cool feature about the R5 is that it has updated Wi-Fi, and even in like the R, you can instantly send JPEGs to your phone or iPad or something, so you can have kind of a tethered setup but wirelessly. And the R5 has increased Wi-Fi capability, so that's gonna work even better. So if you're shooting in the studio or something and you wanna have a monitor for your client so that they can see the photos that you're taking, this is gonna make that really easy, so you don't have to have a wire necessarily coming straight out of your camera in order to tether. For videographers, whew. So again, this is for professionals. The R5 and the R6, first of all, are using the H.265 video files, and those are much harder on your editing system. So in addition to spending more for those camera bodies, you're also going to have to put more money in your editing system. You're going to have a computer that can handle a lot more than what you would from the footage with the R and certainly from the RP. So you really have to think about how much you're investing with the R5 for your editing system, camera, and then your CF Express cards to be able to get the most out of what you can record in photos and video from this camera. 8K RAW, I mean, what we're getting is a cinema camera in a mirrorless body. At $3,800, that's just insane to me. Now, you do, if you are a professional videographer, cinematographer, need to think about the fact that for just a few $1,000s more, you can start getting into actual cinema cameras. Now, 8K RAW is going to cost more than a few $1,000s more. But one thing you need to think about is, do you want to walk onto a set where you're doing cinematography with a mirrorless camera or with an actual cinema camera body? A few things with that. First of all, a cinema camera body is going to have better cooling systems, much lower chance of overheating. At least from the pre-production models, we have heard about, especially in the 4K 120 mode, that some of the R5s have been overheating when you're shooting with them a lot at those higher modes. So that's something to think about. But if you are a high-end hybrid shooter, you're shooting high-end photos, you're shooting high-end videography, or even if you're just a high-end videographer that wants to have a small travel camera that is going to produce insane cinema quality results, what an amazing option. So I think all four of these cameras give amazing options at very different price points. I hope this video helped you to see what might be the best option for you based on your budget and your needs. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in getting any of these cameras, I will leave affiliate links in the description below with the current pricing. And if you use those links at no extra cost to you, you will help support this channel a little bit. If you're interested in one of these bodies, I'd like to hear about it in the comments below, or even just what you think about these bodies, especially the new ones and the announcements that came out today. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. See you guys.